Say it ain't so, say it ain't so. Even top content creators who are artists are utilizing AI. Apparently, allegedly. All right. So this is some a spicy drama going on. I can't believe drama in the art community. No, say it ain't so. Anyway, we're gonna dive into this video and I'm gonna give you guys my opinion. I'm an artist as well, all right? These are some of the, drawings I've done with using vector graphics. So if you're interested, shameless plug, get it out the way. Throw your suggestions down below on different IP, different anime, DC, Marvel character designs you guys want me to draw in the future, all right? So without further ado, let's dive into this video.
What's up guys, welcome back. Please buckle up. This is going to be a crazy video. Here's the situation. So Rossdraws, who happened to be one of my biggest inspirations when I first started out, is now getting canceled for using AI in his work, as well as not wanting to pay his employees. We are so cooked, boys. Now, to be honest with you guys, even though I never go outside, I'm actually not as chronically online as you guys think. So this issue would have probably flown under my radar if it weren't for a couple of you guys commenting on my last video, saying stuff to me like, why are you staying silent on these allegations? And why would I listen to an artist who uses AI in their work? First of all, that's offensive. Second of all, what did I do? Bro, could you imagine how confused I was? So I thought, okay, you guys must have got the wrong guy. And you did. Turns out it wasn't about me. It was about Ross. And apparently in 2025, we still can't tell Asians apart. I mean, bro, be for real.
That is such a not best photo to use, but I get what he means. And speaking of AI, I use AI for backgrounds. I do character designs, right? But I don't. You're not an artist if you're using the whole entirety of AI and just say, "Hey, I made this work out of a prompt." That's not art. You're using it as a tool. It's just more of just pumping out content rather than the passion of building from the beginning to the end from scratch. But nonetheless, I'm like right in the middle of the road, as in AI is good as a tool. I don't design backgrounds. I don't have time. Can I make a background? Yeah, but do I want to spend hours and hours of making something where the foreground of the character is the antithesis of the image? No, not doing that. But I can understand. I can understand why people get upset with this whole AI situation. But let's continue.
Do we look alike? We're not even the same breed of Asian. Anyway, so thanks to my newfound haters, I found out about this issue and I decided to do some digging because I'm nosy. So I just followed the scent of the tea. And here we are. Now in this video, I want to address the two main issues, which number one is AI usage. Number two is not paying somebody who works for you. If you guys have been following me for any amount of time, you probably would have heard me say at some point that Ross was one of my biggest inspirations and one of my art heroes at the very start of my YouTube/social media journey. He inspired me and showed me the possibility not only of art, but also of the career path that you could take in art. His energy was contagious and I loved seeing another Asian dude just being on the top of his game. I was like, that could be me. Today I would consider myself and Ross to be acquaintances. We don't talk, but we do know each other. And the one time that we did actually interact was at Lightbox Expo 2022. We had some great conversations that weekend.
And these are top artists on YouTube. You see now they doing like they doing all these like expos and all this stuff. That's when you know you up there. Like, dang.
A panel together, which was a fantastic time. He even took Ethan Becker, ergo Josh, a couple of his employees, as well as myself, out to dinner afterwards, all of which he paid for because we were guests in his city. And at one point I remember I tried to buy something from his store from one of his employees and bro just like spawns in out of nowhere and just refuses my money. So my personal experience with Ross is he's a very kind person and he has been nothing but kind to me. Throughout all of my interactions with him, I've had no reason to think otherwise. I really like the guy from the time that we spent together, and I mean it when I say that I wish him all the best and I don't have any bad blood towards him. He has been a huge inspiration to not only myself but a lot of other art babies in the community, which is why we got to address the issues that we're going to address today. Now, here's a quick summary of the situation. So there's a guy named Fen who used to work for Ross. Fen helped Ross at conventions, and they sort of seemed like they were friends because Ross would always go to Fen for advice. And Fen recently came out with a 20-page Google Doc expose on Ross and the problematic things that he thinks Ross does. So obviously, anytime you take dirty laundry onto the internet, it gets messy. As you would expect, this...
Let's read some of the comments. Wow, bro, which prompt can pay for a cat but can't pay employees? What prompt did you use for this one? Used to look up to this guy, shaking my head.
This basically started a whole hate campaign against Ross. Ross has been posting about his new pet recently, and a lot of people in the comments are
that poor cat. I hope you
very
didn't
happy
mistreat
with
it too.
And I think
Oh
it's
man,
how
internet is just look. That's why it's called keyboard warriors. You know, your identity is sealed. No one can know who you are. So feels like Grand Theft Auto, right? You could just say what you want, make some damage, and then just get away with it.
I got caught in the crossfire. That's just my luck, man. Sam does death by friendly fire. Now, I've gone through every single page, every single sentence, every word, every punctuation in this document. And the two main issues are AI and not paying your employees. Now, the first one that I want to talk about is the AI problem. Now, let's pull this up. So Fen says this is a more serious accusation, and it absolutely is. Ross is working on a new project right now, which is just another art book, and I can't in good conscience recommend anyone to buy it. That's because all of this is AI, including his Instagram profile picture. He has shown to me
I always say this, people. When you become successful, right? And this is in general. It has nothing to do with art. This is just in general, right? You have to consider it's like Icarus flying too close to the sun. Sometimes you build so much success, then you have an empire, you got people working for you, and it gets to the point where your hands can't be all over the kitchen. And certain people, they end up selling out. All they see is green. They lose the side of humanity and they focus more on profit. What is the profit margin? If we do this, it's unethical, but you know what? It is what it is. I'm going to make money off of it. Fast food companies do that all the time. Like they have petroleum in some of the foods. It's not even, we shouldn't be eating that, but they cut corners in order to reach the profit margin. And I'm starting to feel like, in my opinion, that's what's going on here. Even artists, and it hurts more because artists is very prideful, like, oh, we do everything from scratch, you know, we take pride in authenticity. But just like the music industry, it's like you get too close to the sun, you reach so much success that you start to lose who you are just for money. So it's honestly, it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. But let's get back into the video.
Admitted to me in person that he has used AI for this, and Fen claims that he's well aware that some of these images aren't released yet to the public, but the ones that will be released will have been painted over to hide any traces of AI. Now, if this were true, that would genuinely be quite problematic. Fen says, I know any proof I have around this is sparse because he's very intentional with when and how he shares his images, and he's attached this painting that Ross has done along with the draft painting. Now, his claim here is that the leg armor in the draft painting is strangely formed, is asymmetrical to the other leg armor, and has more detail than the final piece, which he alleges that Ross painted over to hide his AI usage in the draft process. Now, obviously, just by looking at these pieces, we cannot definitively claim that these are made by AI. We've gotten to a point where there's simply no way to tell. So some of these images don't actually set off my AI radar, but one that really does is this picture of the boy, like how the sweater kind of curves in and cuts into the silhouette of the shorts, even though it's supposed to be behind the shorts. That's a classic thing you might expect an AI to do. The bottom of the trunk of the shorts just don't really make much sense. Like, is that supposed to be a shadow? Is that supposed to be the other side of the shorts? And there's also strange artifacts here that looks like the color of the skin of the leg that's kind of bleeding into the top of the shorts. And honestly, Ross is a great artist. He's great at what he does. And
let me ask you guys this question, right? Let's say if you're a singer, would you want to be in a situation where you have enough of a catalog where you can implement AI and just start mass producing and you look at it like, hey, I already paid my dues, so what's the point of me always making something from scratch? Let me know what you guys think down below, because it is a touchy topic and certain people are going to either lean towards, hey, it's practicality, right? It's a tool. I'm going to try to make money off of it. It is what it is. Other people are like, well, you're a sellout because you're not actually fully making the artwork. You're half doing it and then you rely on the AI to finish up the rest, or something like this where the whole entire thing is made through AI. So let me know what you guys think down below.
And I don't think this is like the kind of mistakes or the marks that Ross would make in a painting. But hey, again, just like the rest of you guys, I have no way to know for sure. Now, what we do know is Ross has made a statement on this topic addressing his AI usage. I'm going to link that down below along with the Google Doc. Ross says, out of the 600 plus published pieces of art I've created over the past 6
I'll read the whole thing for you guys. All right, so my main monitor is right here. It's not right here, right? When I slowly returned to social media in 2024, the creative curiosity remained, but I should have taken more time to catch up with the evolving conversation around AI. Out of the 600 plus published pieces of art I've created over the past 16 years, 5 had some AI influence. I now recognize that I should have been more thoughtful and aware of the broader conversations around the subject. Seems like you got caught with your hands in the cookie jar. That's what it seems like to me. And like I said, I'm in between because I can understand from a practical business perspective, but then I also can understand from the authenticity perspective. But the problem is that when you lean more towards business, not selling your soul, that's so exaggerated, but you end up working too smart that you cut too much corners, and then people will call you out. People will call you out. And that's one of the things when you're that up there, you know, especially on social media, like these cats here, even who I'm reacting to, Sam Does Art, they're up there. I know I'm glazing the crap out of them, but it's true. They got over millions of subscribers on all social media platforms. So it gets to the point where when you have a team of people, especially with W9 forums, right? The guy who is reacting to Rossdraws, he got a team of people. They start to think in terms of green and making profit rather than arts from scratch. So again, it just depends on the individual, what you guys think about all of this.
16 years, 5 have had some AI influence. I now recognize that I should have been more thoughtful and aware of the broader conversations around the subject. He then goes on to say, for my most recent book project, I briefly explored AI in the concept phase, but I made the clear decision to remove it to ensure the final work is entirely my own. This book is a reflection of my artistic vision, and I want to reassure you there is no AI in it. Now, you know what? I'll take his word for it. So obviously that statement is going to lend some credibility to what Fen had to say about the AI usage issue. Now, here are my thoughts on this. You guys by now probably know how I feel about AI, and just in case you don't, let me put it real clear and concise for you.
Yeah, I'll tell you this right now. This Sam Does Art, he is fully against it because he has situations where apparently, if you guys didn't know, a lot of people was cutting corners instead of like asking him for any type of, commission. They just use AI and just get it from AI itself. So that's pretty messed up, I just use AI for free rather than paying the actual artist.
With it. Now, you guys may believe what you will, but for me, I think generative AI is the epitome of the devaluation of art, of trying to cut costs, trying to cut human labor, trying to cut money that goes to artists, and it really just cheapens art and sees it as a means to an end as opposed to an entire creative process and human expression. The way that it's going right now, I really don't believe that it's technology that's here to help the everyday artist. It's actually gearing itself towards helping people who already have a lot of money keep more of their money instead of having to pay that money to hardworking artists. It's like,
and I would say this, guys, the whole trope of starving artists, I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of industries, they don't care about artists. In fact, it's an industry. So everything that they're doing is always to cut corners. They never cared about artists, but they had to pay artists because They are the original producers. So why do you think even when it came down to that before AI, they will try to cut cost? Like, paying them the same amount of money as you working at McDonald's. Because they don't respect artists and they never will. And it's not their responsibility to respect artists. That's why it's cool for, content creators to just give their own type of self-respect, have their own audience, and be their own rock stars rather than relying on big companies. Big companies are not your mom and dads. They're not here to take care of you. Their main prerogative is to make money off of you. And if there's, which they have now, which they was hoping for, that they have a system where you don't need actual people, you could just use a machine. They're gonna take advantage of that, unfortunately. That's just how it is. Human beings, like, we all do that all the time. It's like, oh, instead of me spending all of this money on this, let me go on Amazon and buy this product. And like, two things can coexist at the same time. There are people that want something handcrafted. This was handcrafted, so it's high end, handcrafted. But then there's others who are like, I don't got the money for that. Or they got the money for it, but they're like, no, we want to make a bigger profit margin, so let's cut corners and utilize something that is less and less coworkers, less and less staff, and more machine. Now, that's one of those situations where that's capitalism, unfortunately.
Like the most dystopian take on art. And now, having heard all of that, you guys probably think I'm all for canceling AI art and just banishing anybody who uses it from the art community. But I'm actually not for that. I actually really don't believe that we should cancel people and belittle them for using AI as a part of their process. Now, in this specific case with Ross, I feel like Ross not disclosing his use of AI in some of his work is...
He said also, can we resume on deleting the mid-journey stuff? Can we make... Okay, so this is like damage control, what he's saying. All right.
A huge mistake. I think we can all agree that transparency is very important on this topic. Like, yeah, personally, I will be disappointed if I find out you use AI in your work process and it's not something that I agree with. But guess what's going to disappoint me even more? Finding out that you used it and actually tried to hide it. And that kind of brings me back to the reason that I speak out against canceling artists simply because they use AI. Because guess what? The more fear of backlash that we create around this topic of using AI in your workflow, the less transparency we'll get. There's less incentive for someone to come out and say, yes, I did use AI, and admit to doing it. Because in this case, everyone who uses AI is going to be running scared. They're going to be looking over their shoulders to see if there's like a hate mob on the internet coming after them. And if you want that, if you support the harassment, you support...
And guess what? Unfortunately, here's the reality, right? Most of the masses, right? The mass audience, they don't know, nor do they care about how the product was made. For the majority of people, they don't care how the product was made, unless the product is so bad. Like, I think they had that for what was it? The Disney Plus. It was a Marvel, when they had the Scrolls and Nick Fury. That series, the intro was all done through AI, and it was terrible. And people brought it up like, "Yo, is this AI? Because this is so bad." When something is so bad and you cut corners, it's lazy and people call it out. But if something looks great, you don't care if it was AI or not, But at the same time, I'm in the fork in the road. I'm like right in between, because you could use it as a tool, but don't use it in the totality as a finished product, because ultimately that's not yours. You just typed it in, That's my opinion when it comes down to all of that.
The hate mobs, I'm sorry, but you got to do some thinking. You got to look in the mirror and look long and hard at yourself, bro. Now, my belief on this is, we all work differently. We all have our own process. If someone wants to try AI, there's no one who can stop them. They have free will. But for people like us who don't really support AI, I think if there's someone around you who is using AI as a part of their work process, we could try instead to encourage them, right? To provide resources where they can learn how to actually do it, how to actually pick up the skill. Maybe we can share with these artists, the way that we personally learn a certain subject, the things that we found difficult and the things to look out for. Give them some access to resources, guide them a little bit, encourage instead of intimidate. My fear is I feel like a lot of people might turn to AI because they feel incompetent. They feel like their skill is not up to par. They lack the confidence to make what they want to make. They might fall into the trap of thinking AI is going to generate cooler ideas than I can ever do, and it's going to make more art even faster. So I really fear
I think you can use AI. I think I talked about this in one of my previous videos. You could use, in my opinion, you could use AI as a teaching tool, right? So let's say if you don't know how to draw hands, you could prompt hands, right? It's just, I look at AI image generator as an advanced Google search. That's the way I see it. And by using it as like advanced reference or inspiration or looking at something and just trying to draw what you see, I don't see a problem with that. That, again, as a tool, is fine. As a way to cut corners a little bit, I use it for backgrounds, and I blur out the backgrounds so the character that I created from scratch stands out. That's fine. But the issue, again, is when it's the whole entire piece, which should be just used as a reference or inspiration, but you then just be like, oh, I make this. That's where I disagree with all of that. So, and especially nowadays with instant gratification, that's one of the biggest issues we have now. Everything is fast. So AI is even faster. You just prompt it, and then within a few seconds, here's your artwork, where art is not made like that. Art takes time, just like music. It takes time to make content, especially creative content.
Some people might be using it out of a lack of confidence in themselves and their ability to learn this skill, which is why, again, I say to encourage people, to help people. Another problem that I see is that a lot of younger people are growing up with this brain rot of instant gratification all around them. And guess what AI provides? Instant
I didn't even watch this video yet, and look at that.
Well, you don't have to spend years
instant gratification.
Just generate an image. It's going to look perfect. And I, for one, as somebody who loves making art, who loves learning about art, I don't want young artists, little art babies, to come out and just fall into this trap of instant gratification instead of finding the joy in putting in the work, learning the skill, suffering a little bit through the process, but getting that delayed gratification and knowing what it feels like.
Yeah, but here's the issue with that. I understand what he's saying, and I'm not saying there's an issue with what he's saying is wrong. I'm saying the issue in terms of their perspective is that they're constantly are on their phones, right? And when you're on your phone, what you're doing, you're scrolling, and as you're scrolling, you're seeing other artwork. You're seeing people that you think they're way more advanced than you. So you're comparing yourself to them, right? And some of them, they're really good, man. They can literally paint the Mona Lisa with their toes. And they will put out content on a daily basis. You're like, dang, they put out content every day. Where it's taking me days just to make one drawing that don't look as good as theirs. So how do you think that makes them feel in their psyche? It messes with them, I'm a millennial. I'm an older millennial. So I've been through the days before all of this technology, as far as like the full accessibility. I was there during AOL. I was there during AOL, before the internet was big. I just was into Dragon Ball Z and just drawing. It didn't matter if the drawing was crappy. It was the passion. And over time, things enhanced. And so I lived through the times before all of that, so I have more of a balance. But imagine growing up in the era where you grew up with iPads and iPhones and smart technology, and you're on social media, on TikTok and all this stuff, and you're constantly comparing yourself to other people. You're seeing people your age who are making it big, off of their artwork that looks amazing. So then what do? You're inspired, you're influenced, but you're influenced in a negative way because of the instant gratification. And you're like, well, if this person is my age and he or she is successful, I should be in the same situation. See, the difference that in my time, I sound like an old man, my time, Yeah, Disney stars, like TV. I didn't look at that like, oh, I really want to go to Hollywood. There was more work and a barrier. Now there is no barrier. Like, you got your phone, right? So things are too relatable to the point where it becomes unrealistic as far as the quick results. So that's my opinion on that. But let's continue.
To have a passion for something. Again, that's why I say instead of using fear campaigns and harassment, instead of trying to alienate people, let's bring them in. Let's encourage people and help people out, okay? Now, in Ross's case, obviously Ross is not an incompetent artist. He is anything but a young, budding, new art baby. But here's the thing, okay? And take my word with a grain of salt because I'm not here to speak for Ross. But I think in this case, the most likely scenario is that Ross has just no ability to cope with the amount of workload that has to go into this art book. And being somebody who's very high achieving, he probably wants, incredibly beautiful finished pieces all throughout the book, and he wants to finish it within a certain time frame. And perhaps,
but if that's the case, then make it a passion project and have it take a long time. If it's going to be, especially if you are making art and you want to put in so much work, have it take longer. Why cut corners? And this is what I said with the Icarus flying too close to the sun. You thinking too much in terms of green, in terms of money, profit. How do I make profit? How do I make this quick as possible? You end up becoming what you hate. It's always like that.
in that scenario, you set impossible standards for yourself in your head that you just cannot meet. And within that mindset, under those circumstances, I can see why somebody like him would turn to AI. And of course, that's not to say it's right, and this is definitely not something you should be hiding. Ross, as somebody who has been a fan of your work and has found inspiration in your work for a very long time, I think I can speak for a lot of your audience when I say that we would rather see a 2-minute rough sketch that's loose, that's expressive, than a beautiful, fleshed out, fully finished, and perfect looking AI paint over. Because the former is so much more authentically you. That's your style, that's your expression. Look, I don't know if you're misguided in thinking that you just don't have enough time or energy to make the book good enough, but listen, as long as this is your art, your creation, and everything is made by you and authentically you, dude, I don't think anyone's gonna complain. I think that's more than good enough for all of us. If you want to just do a whole bunch of sketches and rough drafts and just throw it in there, I actually wouldn't mind that. I think that'd be cool to see. Look, at the end of
In fact, I think that's the most important thing he just said right there. When you have a rough sketch, when you have a rough draft, it just shows that you're human, you know? Like, I'm currently working on this drawing. It's not, to me, it's not looking good, but I'm going to show that in my video. Why? Because I'm human. I'm not AI, you know? I'm not a human using AI where it's like, hey, I prompted. How does that sound? That sounds ridiculous. I prompted this and I didn't like the way it came out through my prompts. So then I prompted again. I typed it again. It's like, that's just, what am I, a researcher? Like, I'm researching to make art? Like, no. You know, I've put in the craft and it's not coming out good. Just like a writer, like writing a poem or writing an essay. You got to have your first drafts, your second drafts, your third drafts. That's part of the process. And human beings can relate to that. You know, this is why we love, certain people love back in the days when they, you know, I don't know, DVDs are still relevant, well, barely relevant, but people used to buy DVDs not just to rewatch the movies, but to watch the behind the scenes. People like that. It wasn't just people who are inspired trying to be a film director, right? Or producer. Some people are just connoisseurs and they love to see like the humanity behind the process rather than just finished product. Hell, I mean, even me just doing commentary, people like that more than just me showing finished products of artwork that I made, right? So human beings connect with human beings and AI can never replace that. Never. You know, it still has that uncanny valley to the person just not even moving his body and just saying, hey guys, in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to upscale your profitability by doing this and that. And I'm going to show you how things of that nature. I'm trying to look human because, you know, it's AI. So I could barely even, you know, move around, but I'm pretending to be a human being. Buy my course. It only costs $2,000. Get it right now. It's like, it's so fake. You know, so fake. And this is one of the reasons why again, no matter what happens in the future, human beings will always connect to human beings. AI can sound as professional or uncanny as they can, doesn't matter. The big content that are still relevant are the ones where people are just talking. They having conversations with, podcasts. They're making videos where they trip, they fall, like people like mistakes. Mistakes are not a bad thing. So if you're struggling with not completing your project, show the sketches and let people know in the video, like, look, I got burnt out. I'm not gonna lie to you. I got burnt out. People will respect you more rather than, oh, we gotta cut corners. My eyes are green. All I'm thinking about is money. So this needs to be out like as soon as possible. We gotta use AI just to put this out. This is like, you're leaning too much towards profit margin rather than being human and just loving what you're doing with your situation where you're at in life. So I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna put the original video down below. And what do you guys think about my opinion towards this video? The video is 20 minutes long, and me talking so much, I made my video 30 minutes long. Like I said before, this is a shameless plug. I haven't been drawing for some time. I need to get back into it. But 30 suggestions of different character designs you guys want me to do in the future when I use my photograph as a reference. Not all the time I use photograph as reference, but that's just the stuff that I've done on this channel, all right? So leave your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.